Alright, in this video I'm going to show you guys how to put together this Arbor Press assembly. And though it is specific to this particular project, a few of the commands and tools would be very useful to know or to review if you're putting together some other part of your own as well. But for the Arbor Press specifically, we'll take a look at this, and this is what we're after. We're going to try to accomplish this assembly right here, and not just seeing it as a whole, but the exploded view drawing as well could come in very handy to have once it finally loads. Here we go. To show you all the parts and pieces you're going to need. Here's all the parts, the quantity you'll need. Quick note, remember, you'll never model one of anything and you drop it in the number of times you need it, what it is, and then over here you just have the general orientation of how things are going to go together, what relationships they have to, from one part to the next. Okay, so with that, let's start building the Arbor Press assembly. We're going to start a new file, and we're going to do a standard IAM right there. And we want to make sure that we're placing our parts, top left tool here, just the general place command, not any of the others. You can see it switched. And we are going to navigate to wherever you have your parts saved. You'll navigate to where your parts are saved. I am navigating to where my parts are saved. And here we go. And the best part to really start with is the base. That way we can build off of it. So let's open that up, replace it, and just left click once, snaps isometric, and you can see it wants to drop in more if we need it, but we don't, so right click, OK or cancel there, and we're good to go. Good idea is to right click on this part though right away and ground it, or grounded, and then click off to deselect. What that does is it kind of locks something down in space, so that way all the other parts as you bring them in move around something that's stationary. It just works better. And you can see you have that little pin symbol to show that it's grounded, both in the workspace on the cursor and over here in the browser. There's a little pin symbol on our icon. Next, we're going to place again. There's a certain order here I have them named in, but you can do whatever makes sense to you. I might do the column next. There we go. Left click once to place, only need one, so right click OK or cancel. And because it's 90 degrees to the slot that's created for it, I'm going to left click once on it to select it, and then press G on the keyboard, so that way I can rotate this part just a little bit to help the computer to know which way it should go together once I start constraining it. There we go. The main tool we are going to use, as I just hinted at, is constrain. And there's various types here for just general assemblies. Mate, which puts opposing faces together or faces flush. Angle constraints, tangent constraints. Those are the big three right there. I rarely use the other ones. And then there's other types with motion, transitional, constraint sets, but really assembly here. And then these first three are bread and butter. We're going to use them the most, with mate being the very, very most often used with these two different types of solutions: face against face, or faces that are flush. And in this case, I think about the object. How would this really go together? Well, I would need to make sure that there's a hole in here and there's a hole in the base that need to line up. So I'm going to click in a spot that references the center line, not this center point of a circle. In fact, I don't know if we ever use the green dot the center point. It's almost always, or just is always center lines. So highlight a center line, left click once. Right there I can see that, the threaded hole. I'm going to left click again, and it puts those together. Apply, cancel, and drag them back apart. And what I'm going to think about next is, okay, if this is going into that slot, what would touch to stop it? Okay, so I'm going to, thinking about that, I'm going to constrain. Sorry. You see I was dragging this around. When I do that, it highlights the part. So I'm getting the habit of just clicking in the blank space to deselect anything. Then constraint. And if these two parts are going together, the column would go in until it hits that face. So I'm going to left click once there, F4 rotate, and left click that. Apply, cancel. F6 default isometric. And then you'll see what you have left is you can spin this around. So how do you lock this down? Well, a real easy way actually, you can deselect in the workspace here. Constraint tool, angle constraint, and I'm going to say this face and this side of the base here need to be parallel, or 0 degrees. And you can see they're not parallel yet, but if you just try clicking the other solutions, there, it's snapped into place. Apply, cancel, and grab a hold, nothing moves. We're good. With that done, now actually I'm going to go back and put my table and pin in. So place, let's find those parts. Do the table actually. I'll left click once to place, right click OK, and there's a couple ways you could do this one, but I'm going to say again what ultimately has to line up, and it's the whole of the table with the whole of the base. So I'm going to constraint tool. Okay, zoom in makes it easier to pick the center line, and then the center line of this hole. Apply, cancel, drag it back up, left click off to deselect, constraint, and then I want the top of the base, F4 rotate to the bottom of the table, and make sure you're getting that face to highlight. Previews correctly, apply, cancel, and it's in place. It can spin, that's okay. It does in real life when you're using them. Left click off to deselect. Now I need to put that pin in, so place. There's the table pin. Left click once, right click OK. I need to orientate this. I want the chamfer end to go down because the chamfer helps it start easier in the hole. Just double checking that. Yep, chamfer end down. I'm going to click on this pin, G on the keyboard, and just rotate it a little bit to help the computer know which way you want it to start. Click off to deselect, constrain, center line of this pin to the center line of the hole, apply, and in this case, I could cancel, but the two surfaces I need next are showing nicely, so I'm just going to go right away and switch to flush. And see how it's still a mate, but I'm changing the solution now because I need two surfaces to be even. Top of the pin, top of the table, looks great. Apply, cancel. Spin around that pin. Perfect. Next, let's go ahead and put the gear and the sleeve and the handle all in. So place. There's the gear. Just need one. Right click OK. And constrain tool. If this gear was going in the hole, center line would have to line up with the center line of that. Apply, cancel, pull it back out, click off to deselect. And on this, if you kind of look at the part, you'll see that the gear has this extruded area here, and it fits through that hole. So I just kind of think to myself, alright, well, what's going to hit if these two things go together? So constrain, and it would be the side of this gear, actually, is going to go up against this little bit of wall. Apply, cancel. And that's in place. Okay, so center lines, and then the faces, and that cylindrical object is in place. If you did it right, you'll also notice that right there, the chamfered area should be sticking through the side of the column. F6 for isometric. Next we need the sleeve that goes on there, so place. Sleeve. I'm double clicking on those files, by the way, to select them quickly. Left click once to place, right click OK. Constrain tool, center line of the sleeve goes on the center line of the gear. Apply. And depending if you can see the hole in the gear or not, or I'll just cancel. Drag it off. Constraint. We need the two handle holes to be constrained together. So it's the center line of the two holes. Apply, cancel, and these work together now. And you can even turn it on your glass cube, or a little bit more if you need it there. You can see that spin inside the part, inside the column. F6, default isometric. So we're going to place the handle next. Left click once, escape, or right click is OK or cancel. Now because this part is identical on either end, I really don't have to rotate it, because it's not going to matter which way, if the computer swings this end down through first or this end down through first. So just right away constrain, center line of that, 2, F4 and rotate a little bit, center line of those holes, apply, cancel. And here what we want to do is just position the handle at the moment so you have the end, so it's somewhat centered. We'll just say that. We're going to place, we need the ball end, and we need 2 of these. Right click OK. And if I was putting the ball end on the handle, left click to deselect, constrain, I would need the center line of the handle to be in line with the center line of this hole. Apply, cancel, drag it off. And here, for simplistic actually, what we're going to do is deselect everything, constrain. This little flat bottom of the ball end is going to go down until it hits this flat shoulder on the handle. Apply, cancel. F6. And because this ball end is kind of backward, if it just came over here, it'd be somewhat backwards. So I highlight it, G on the keyboard. Let's just rotate that. Zoom in, doesn't hurt anything. It's kind of the way we'd want it. There we go. Escape. Constrain tool. We're going to do center line of the handle, center line of the hole. Looks good. Apply, cancel, drag it off. Left click to deselect. Constrain. Zoom way in. There we can see that flat spot. F4, rotate just a little bit. And up against that shoulder. Apply, cancel. And then just to lock the handle down to make it move around a little bit easier, I'm going to do a constraint that's tangent between the sleeve and I zoom way in that little bit of flat spot on the ball end. Apply, cancel. Yep, that looks like good movement right there. Alright, then we're ready for the screw on the other side of the gear here. We can go ahead and throw that in. Just double checking on my exploded view. That would be part 12 over here. Go back, place,